Dear students, as we are reading the lesson The Gardener, written by P. Lankesh, and in our previous class we completed till this point, this paragraph, and we will read from this same paragraph in this class. Hence he was in a fix like this one day. The old man met her and behaved as though he knew all about her plight. He smiled at her and brought down an offering of tender coconuts from a nearby tree. He sat on the embankment of the well. She had no alternative, and she sat next to him. The sun was slipping away into the western horizon. His rays were reaching the walls of the well through the foliage of coconut, mango, and jackfruit trees. And then it means when she was fixed like this means fixed like in the sense her husband was not working, whether the old man's arrival was good or bad, and their life was getting out of hand. Her wife had learnt otherwise is cultivated lately. So it means their family life was her gradually getting out of hand. Hence her at that time that old man came very close to that owner and sat on the embankment, and he offered her tender coconut. And further he says, the old man began his narrative. He started to explain. His explanation started. Old man's explanation started. In a far off place, once there was a man called Tammanna. See the name, Tammanna. He had everything: 10 acres of wetland, a comfortable house, people too ready to do his bidding. The most important among all his possessions was rival Sangoji. See another one name, Sangoji, Tammanna and Sangoji. Here in a far off place, in a distant place, in a far away, once there was a man called Tammanna, and he had everything in his life: 10 acres of wetland. How many? 10 acres of wetland, a comfortable house. People were also ready to his orders. Whatever he says, orders, people were ready to do that one, because that much of popularity he had in his village. The most important among all his possessions, property, his belongings, property was his rival, enemy Sangoji. His enemy Sangoji, Tammanna and Sangoji. After proceeding this far, the old man started fumbling for words as though he had committed a mistake. She was listening. She felt like going away, saying, "All this is none of my concern. All this is none of my concern." However, unwilling to hurt the old man, she continued to sit there quietly. The old man went on, "No, his name was not Sangoji. His name was Basavaya. It was Basavaya." He expressed his amazement at how facts take on such varied guises when they are narrated as fiction. Here, in a far off distant place, there was a man called Tammanna, and further he explained regarding his rival Sangoji. Then he changes the name Sangoji to Basavaya. Here, proceeding this far, proceeding continued further. The old man started fumbling. Fumbling means he cannot speak properly. Here, repeating the words, the same words again and again. It is called stammer. Fumbling means the stammering. Okay, those words, fumbling for words, as though he had committed a mistake. He couldn't speak properly. He started to stammer, and he didn't proceed properly. She was listening, of course, she was listening what he was telling. Sometimes, at some point, she feels like going away. Better go away from this place. What is the use of Tammanna, Sangoji, wetland, 10 acres of land, people were ready to do all his bidding. What is the use of taking all things to this lady? She having her own problem, because her life was getting gradually out of hand. She was thinking about her problem, but he started to explain about someone's. So she was listening. She felt like going away, saying, "All this is none of my concern, not belong to me. Why should I listen to this one? So it is not my concern." However, But here that lady didn't wish to hurt that old man, because the old man should not hurt, unwilling to hurt. Let it sit and listen what is going to happen. Let it be Tamanna or Basavaya or Sangoji, don't bother. She continued to sit there quietly. She sat there very quietly. The old man went on in the sense he explained, proceeded. No, his name was not Sangoji, his name was Basavaya. Basavaya here. Tamanna and Basavaya. He expressed his amazement, surprise, wondered, her amazement at how facts take on such varied guesses. Varied guesses in the sense external appearances. Appearance, external visualization, external appearances when they are narrated as fiction. See here, he was expressing his surprise on his face when he changed those names and these things. And there he said about Tamanna and Basavaya. And then let that be. Okay, let it be. Tamanna, Basavaya, of course. Here, let us assume, think his name was Basavaya, he was Tamanna's rival. He was Tamanna's rival. Tamanna bought 4 more acres. Tamanna bought 4 more acres adjacent to his land. Basavaya also followed suit. If one had 10 friends, the other acquired 15 admirers, supporters, the one who appreciates, admirers. To begin with, all this looked like a healthy competition. That is why in our pre-reading activity, what is the difference between competition and rivalry? It is asked there. There is competitiveness in competition, but there is rivalry in, there won't be rivalry. Okay, so when competition turns into a rivalry, so it is not good. Healthy competition, however, gradually it rose to such a pitch that there was no land left in the village for them to buy. All land belonged to either Tamanna or Basavaya. Basavaya had 1,000 acres and Tamanna had 1,000 acres. Tamanna had 1,000 acres and Basavaya owned 800 acres. Basavaya couldn't tolerate this. He sent word to Tamanna asking him to sell his 200 acres of land to whom? To him. Tamanna didn't agree. He was prepared to buy all the land that belonged to Basavaya. Basavaya was mad with rage. He went along with his people and acquired 200 acres of land from Tamanna forcibly. A fence was built around that land. Tamanna couldn't tolerate this invention. See what happens here. See here, there are different motivating forces in our life. According to their motivation, we lead our life. So in that case, here Tamanna and Basavaya, they are motivated by the motivating factor called the competitiveness as well as the enmity. Here, in the initial stage. Let that be, of course, Tamanna and Basavaya. And think that his name was Basavaya and he was Tamanna's rival. Tamanna's rival's name was her Basavaya. See, the competition here. If Tamanna purchases 4 more acres next to, adjacent in the sense side by, next to, close to, adjacent, his land, Basavaya also followed the same thing. He used to purchase the land. There was competition. Then, if one had 10 friends, other had acquired 15 admirers. If one had 10, another one had 15. It means competition in all the fields. Of course, to see in its earliest stages, it looked okay, good. To begin with, all this looked like healthy competition. In the initial stage, in the beginning stage, it was a healthy competition. But, however, gradually it rose to such a pitch that it reached such a situation that There was no land left in the village for them to buy. There was no land left in the village for them to buy. The land, whether it belonged to Tamanna or Basavaya, no other person had owned her land. All land belonged to either Tamanna or Basavaya. Tamanna had 1,000. See here, Tamanna has 1,000 acres and Basavaya had 800 acres of land. This difference brought a serious difference between these two. Here the difference 200 acres of land brought a serious issue or difference between these two. Basavaya couldn't tolerate. No, not possible to tolerate. No, it never happens. It should not happen because here there is a competition. I should have more acres than Tamanna. So he sent word to Tamanna asking him to sell 200 acres. He sent his persons to whom? To Tamanna and conveyed the message that Tamanna should sell 200 acres to whom? To Basavaya. Tamanna sent words to sell 200 acres to whom? To Basavaya. See here. Tamanna didn't agree. When Tamanna heard these words from Basavaya through his people, Tamanna didn't agree and Tamanna was also ready to purchase all the land that belonged to Basavaya. All the land means, no, I am not going to sell my 200 acres, but I am ready to purchase the 800 acres of land belonged to Basavaya. See here, this is the enmity. This is the enmity. This mad bullying here. This difference brought the serious difference between these two. This paved way for the further issues, and Basavaya sent his people with the word that Tamanna should sell his 200 acres land to him, and Tamanna said, no, I am not going to sell my 200 acres to whom? To this Basavaya, and ready to purchase all the 800 acres of land belong to Basavaya. See this difference. Usually quarrels take place in such a tone. Here, fighting takes place on such issues. There is no meaning. Basavaya was mad with rage. Basavaya, when he heard the word from Tamanna that he was ready to purchase all the land belonged to him, he was mad with rage. Rage means very angry, became very angry. He went along with his people, his supporters, and acquired and had 200 acres of Tamanna's land. Acquired means snatched 200 acres of Tamanna's land here, snatched, confiscated. He went and put the boundary and took 200 acres of land from Tamanna without asking Tamanna. See here. See this one. It is called invention. It is called invention. Means sudden attack. Sudden attack it is. And he was not ready for anything. It was sudden attack by Basavaya on Tamanna. Snatched 200 acres from Tamanna. Now it is vice versa here. Tamanna, Basavaya had 1,000 acres of land and Tamanna had 800 acres of land. But it is not on the lines of ethics. Attacking someone, here snatching their land, confiscating their property and enhancing our possessions is not the way. But here it happened because of that enmity. A fence, a boundary. Fence means boundary was built. Here boundary was built around that land. Tamanna couldn't tolerate this invention. Tamanna here, he couldn't tolerate this attack. He was waiting for his own turn. He intended to take revenge against Basavaya, that Basavaya should be completely annihilated. There should not be a single evidence that there was Basavaya on this land. He was planning regarding that incident. That it means that opportunity. Then by now the quarrel between these two had sucked in all their supporters. Tamanna was advised by his supporters about the various means available for getting back his land. There was a court of law first, court of law. Next, one could also take the recourse to the police. If you didn't want that, there were many number of persons ready to attack Basavaya. Such a war had become virtually inevitable. But Tamanna was in search of a method that could annihilate Basavaya. See, that could annihilate Basavaya completely. See the term. He hit upon the idea of composing all his experiences in the form of ballads. Ballads is a form of literature, ballads, writing poems, ballads, and singing them. Now, the rivalry between Tamanna and Basavaya started moving away from that were visible towards invisible and abstract domain. See here. Basavaya became very smart while selecting the way to take, while taking revenge against Basavaya. Here. Hence, by now, the quarrel between these two had sucked in all their supporters, reached all their supporters, and all their, it means Tamanna's supporters and Basavaya's supporters. Tamanna's supporters advised, his supporters, Tamanna's supporters advised about the various means ways. There are so many ways there to get back your land. Not only one and two, they suggested. There was a court of law, we can move to court. Then one could also take recourse to the police. We can give complaint to whom? To the police against Basavaya that he snatched our land illegally. And third, if you didn't want, okay, you don't want to go to court and police station, leave that. Many people are there, they are ready to attack whom? Basavaya. Because it is said, enemy of an enemy is a friend. That is said. But here, his enemies, Basavaya's enemies were ready to attack Basavaya, taking the help of Tamanna. But such a war had become virtually inevitable. Really, it was unavoidable. There must be a war between this Tamanna and Basavaya. There was no any other choice. But Tamanna was in search. Tamanna was not thinking about all these plans, court, police station, attack on Basavaya. No, these are very trivial, silly means to take revenge against Basavaya. So what should be done? Tamanna was in search of a method that he could annihilate Basavaya completely. Annihilate. The meaning of annihilate means to destroy someone completely. Here, to destroy someone or something completely. Here, there won't be any mark or identity on this earth that regarding the existence. So here, to destroy Basavaya completely, he hit upon the idea. Yes, suddenly an idea came into his mind. Composing. Composing means writing all his experiences, good experiences, bad experiences, all such unwanted experiences, all experiences in the form of ballads, a type of poetry it is. Okay, writing poems, type of ballads. Writing ballads and singing those songs before the people. They will understand. So, demoralizing Basavaya in the society, highlighting his wickedness, his vices, and all these. Now, we started the lesson with that owner and lady, and that old man. That old man started to tell another one story here, Tamanna and Basavaya. See, his experiences in the form of ballads and singing them, writing songs and singing them. Now the rivalry between Tamanna and Basavaya started moving away from things that visible to invisible. Their fight was visible. Their enmity was visible. One used to purchase 4 acres of land, another one used to purchase 4 acres of land. One used to have 10 friends, another one used to have 15 admirers. It was visible. Now it is invisible. Invisible in the sense, in abstract domain, we cannot see the enmity between these two. But there is a rigorous, they were staunch enemies. How? In abstract domain, invisible. He started to write poems, singing those poems before the people, and people will understand regarding Basavaya and demoralizing Basavaya in the society. See here, he hit upon this idea. What was the intention here? Intention of Tammanna was to destroy Basavaya completely. And then in this next paragraph, further it is explained. Okay, Basavaya had no answer to this. He had no answer to this. He also tried to sing but couldn't. He performed his agricultural tasks more diligently. Diligently here, more diligently. This too was no answer to Tammanna. Tammanna's reputation started spreading all around. His songs started making a mention of Basavaya's cruelty and meanness, lowness. There is low level thinking, low level approach, meanness. Scholars of folklore were after the critics. Scholars were after Tammanna because Tammanna became a very successful poet. Critics, the one who criticized his work, started analyzing and translating his songs and thus earned their share of fame. Basavaya helplessly watched all this, consumed by anger. He encroached here, slowly encroached, getting into others' property without taking their permission, encroaching. It means encroached more and more into Tammanna's land. But Tammanna didn't notice any of these activities. Let him encroach. Art had become the raison d'etre of his life. He was felicitated as the best poet of his times. He was awarded as the best poet of his times. Okay, here the difference here, Tammanna and Basavaya. The way became here, the divided way it is now. Basavaya had no answer. Tammanna started to compose ballads, singing them, and even Basavaya tried the same, to sing songs, but it was not possible. That gift was not given to him. He performed his agricultural tasks more skillfully. He worked his agriculture very skillfully, earned more income, but this was to no answer to Tammanna. Tammanna didn't give any answer to Basavaya, or it was not possible to compete with Tammanna. Tammanna's popularity started spreading. His popularity spread to all the nook and corners of that area. His songs started making mention Basavaya's cruelty and meanness. He wrote all these things in his poems about Basavaya, about his nature, his cruelty, his attack, his lawlessness. So all these explained, and scholars were after Tammanna because he became the most successful poet and singer, and even critics, they started analyzing, criticizing his poems and translating his songs into other languages, and they too earned their own share of fame, popularity. See, Tammanna, he changed the way of life. He changed his own mindset. Here, at that Basavaya couldn't walk on the same path. Here, without speaking a single word to whom? To Basavaya, Tammanna is taking revenge against Basavaya. See here, that is why it was his intention that he must completely annihilate, to destroy completely Basavaya. And Basavaya helplessly watched all this, consumed by anger. Yes, there was no answer. He encroached, entering into the other's property without the permission, more and more into Tammanna's Tammanna's land. He encroached into the Tammanna's land. 200 acres, like that. He encroached. Tamanna didn't notice anything. Neglected. So it is the biggest punishment. Tamanna didn't notice any of these activities. He neglected all the things done by Basavaya. Art had become the reason d'etre of his life, the cause of life. It means the cause of life. The cause of life. It was the main motto of life, mission of life, the intention of life. He was awarded as the best poet of his times, and he became the best poet then. Then later, what had happened? After this, once again the competition started as usual. Basavaya shrunk in humiliation. Nevertheless, he started filling his life with all kinds of material wealth. He got a palatial mansion, big bungalow built for himself. He appointed number of persons just to praise him. He bedecked himself with gold, diamonds and other precious stones. But his house looked dull and empty because of Tamanna's books were not there. That is what the visitors told him. Therefore, he started inviting scholars, poets and musicians to his place. This was his way of investing his home with meaning. How to give meaning to our home? My dear students, now we have to think. Not comparing ourselves with our neighbors or our other people who are staying there very close to us or far away from us. Comparing ourselves, if we start doing like them, we will be like them only. So we should not lead our life as others' life. We should lead our own life. It's our own life. We should not lead a rented life. Here, how to give meaning to our own homes? Here, there must be mutual understanding, there must be love, affection, affinity, closeness. All must be there among the members of that house. And we should not look others. Of course, look others and don't imitate blindly anything or everything. It is wrong. And we must try to lead our own life based on our own ideas. We should not take ideas on rent. We have to think accordingly and lead our life accordingly. This is the most beautiful lesson written by P. Lankesh regarding our driving forces, our motivating factors. Got it? So Basavaya shrunk in humiliation by seeing all the success of Tamanna. Here scholars are after Tamanna, critics are after Tamanna, and he was awarded as the best poet. So Tamanna's success made Basavaya's disappointment. Nevertheless, he started filling his life. Then from what happened? He started to fill all his life with all kinds of material wealth, meaningless wealth. So, but he gave more importance to what? Material wealth. He got a big bungalow for him. What is a big bungalow? Yes, he got a palatial mansion built for himself, big bungalow. Then appointed a number of persons to appreciate him, flatterers, only appreciating Basavaya, because he appointed, they were paid persons to appreciate, to praise Basavaya. He was decorated, bedecked in the sense, decorated himself with gold, diamonds, wearing gold rings, chains, diamonds, all these precious stones. See here, him decorated himself with what? Gold, diamonds and other precious stones. What is the use? But his house, of course, big bungalow. There we see gold, diamonds, other precious stones, everything he had. But his house looked dull and empty. There was no life in his home. Because there were no Tamanna's books. That is what the visitors told him. Visitors told him, of course, you have everything except Tamanna's books. but he couldn't buy because there is enmity. Therefore, he started inviting scholars. He started to invite different scholars. He paid money to scholars, they used to come, inviting scholars, poets and musicians to his place. This was his way of investing his home with meaning. He tried his level best to give meaning to his home. But here, there was no soft corner for Tamanna. However, by this time, Tamanna had thought of yet another method of punishing Basavaya. That was death. If he continued at the level of the body, Basavaya would go on offering a stiff competition. But if his song was separated from his body, if there was no relation between these songs and his own flesh and blood, this is how his thoughts went. That is when I realized how strange human nature can be. See here, that is how strange human nature can be. The old man began his explanation to the owner's wife. See here, one day, once again, the Tamanna thought another one method, plan to annihilate Basavaya here. Patience and kindness, we have to have these two things. Okay, we should think wisely, accordingly, judiciously. Okay, being with or having cool mind, we should go on thinking. My dear students, how strange human nature can be over here. We'll discuss about this concept in our that next class. Thank you. Have a good day.